This is Tanja, and I welcome you to My Two Cents for Change because that's just what it is, My Two Cents for Change. Um, Today, we're going to be talking about communication. Um, for one, I want to define what communication is based on what I looked up, but of course, everybody else can, have the input, and we're going to have a guest that do just that. Communication is defined as the imparting or exchanges of information or news. It's a means of sending or receiving information. And the types of communication is verbal, nonverbal, visual, or written. Verbal can be what you say directly or indirectly. Nonverbal is facial expressions, which I do a lot, so excuse that. Or it's body language. Visual could be that middle finger that roll rage people do that kind of foolishness. Or you can have written, which is a letter, a text, or an email. So we're going to dive into what is communication, and we're going to have our special guest come on. Now, what we talk about is just what we think communication is, but she's my dear friend, and I think that she's going to be able to have a lot of input on this topic. So we're going to bring her on in, and she's going to be able to tell you a little bit about herself, whatever she wants to tell you. But her name is Lynn. That's all I'm going to tell you. Come on in, Lynn.
Hello, everybody. Tanja, thank you so much for having me on as your guest today. I was so looking forward to talking about communication.
Yes, me
It's
too.
a very important topic, and some people communicate and some people don't. So I think
Mhm.
it's good. I'm so glad that you're covering this.
Absolutely. Well, thank you. I want you to tell us what you think your definition. Did I cover it, or do you have anything that you want to add as far as what your definition of communication is?
Well, it's the way we send and receive information. Whether, like you said, whether it's nonverbal, whether it's verbal, we use our body language sometimes to communicate. So it's very important to communicate. When you communicate with someone, you're also telling them how you feel when
Mm.
they do this and what you want, your wants and your needs. That is so important, and it's so important in a relationship.
Yes, and we're going to start out with the blood relationships first,
Hmm.
because that's something we didn't have a choice in.
Hmm.
You know, God's like, okay, this is where you need to be, and He did
Hmm.
it. So when we're dealing with family, it's a little bit tough to me sometimes, not all the time. It depends on how you start the relationship out. If you have a family member, because unfortunately, I ain't gonna say unfortunately, but fortunately slash unfortunately, sometimes you have no choice as to who you around when you have family functions or different things happen. You have to be around family. However, you do get to make a choice as to the boundaries you set. I learned that from you. Anyway, but you set those boundaries, but you also have to be able to communicate that as well. And sometimes you don't. And when I say that, I just mean like, sometimes people can just say things and you just let it go because they love you and they don't really mean too much by it. So it's not anything that you got to dissect, so to speak. At least that's my opinion. And so with that, you know, if a family member does something to you, would you say that it's kind of the same thing when you're communicating as far as doing it in the moment? Um, hey, Brooke, thank you for joining us. If you communicate in the moment, or do you, if it's a group of people around you, do you pull them to the side, not to embarrass them or put everybody else in your business? How do you do that in that
Well,
setting?
well, if it's a family member, for me, I'm always going to have the clear lines of the behavior I'm going to tolerate and I'm not going to tolerate.
Mhm.
So if that is done, I will give that, you know how we do the eyes, we'll look at that person first and
Yeah.
then come here, let me talk to you for a minute, okay? And set that boundary right here. I will not be disrespected.
Mhm.
You certain things you don't want to let ride because if you do, then it can become passive aggressive. You're holding it, and then the next time it can blow up. So for me, like I said, I'm giving a penny for my thoughts now. For me, gonna tell you straight up because you disrespected me in front of everybody. So I am going to let you know that behavior won't be tolerated again.
But I'm
Those are my clear lines.
okay, so you're saying you do that right then, and since they did it in front of everybody, you do it back in front of everybody?
Mhm.
Oh,
What I would do, this is me now. This is
so
my
that's why
style
we're having this conversation, girl.
because I'm showing you I feel disrespected when you talk to me that way. What I need is you to respect me. That's what communication means to me. I feel, when you, and what I need. Those are my clear boundaries. So if you talk to me that way, the first thing I'm going to say, you will not disrespect me again. I have just drawn that clear boundary for that person as well as everybody else there. Because when that person disrespected you, everybody looked at you, didn't they? Like, uh-oh, you know, as to what you were going to say, what will you do? And inside, were you burning up inside when that happened to you?
But you know, it depends on the personalities too, I
It does.
think. Because sometimes they look at you like, oh Jesus, they just said this to you gonna get bite or whatever you want to say. But then there's some people that they know just goes like, oh, that's okay. I'll just let them go. They're having a bad moment, they're having a bad day. In some cases you do make exceptions because that person might have just had, lost a job or, whatever. So I think that there are times when you can make those exceptions, but what you're saying is absolutely true. A lot of people think, and I for one will say that as well, that sometimes you pull them to the side, but I didn't think about it the way you just said it. You embarrass me in front of everybody, so why shouldn't I do it? But then I also that's twofold, because if you desire, because we all Christian singles on here, and if we desire to be with a mate, you're not going to do that to your spouse, because he might have unintentionally did something, and you thought it was disrespectful based on the conversation that you and him had, and so you wait, you put on that united front, and you discuss it at home. So I guess that's a little different, but is that kind of the same?
Well, it depends. Now, if it's a husband, you don't want to embarrass your husband out in public like that. If it's another family member, then that could be something different, such as a sister, such as a brother, who always does things like that to you. Then you're going to put it in perspective right then and there. And, the Bible says, don't let the sun go down on your anger. So while you're getting angry at that situation, you need to handle that situation right then and there while it's fresh. And that's just the way that I would do it. Everybody has their own way and they know that family member a little bit more. My thing is speak your truth and speak it right then and there. Correct the problem. Think about a child in school. The teacher corrects that problem right then and there, doesn't she? So I look at it that
not about this day and age.
Look, not about she could be scared to do that. But everybody's different. I'm direct. I speak my truth right then and there. So to let that person know this won't happen again. I won't be disrespected. Right. So, it all depends on that family member. Now, when it comes to a mama or a daddy, okay, well, mama, with all due respect now, okay, as soon as I come in your house, don't be pushing food on me. Things of that nature, that's my boundary. So okay. It depends.
Well, that's true. That's true. Yeah. I had a thought, but getting older, you kind of lose it in that moment. But that's a good thing to go by. I just know that for me to think about relationships, period, if they continually do it, do you push yourself away? That's that nonverbal thing. Like if they're in that setting, I don't want to be there. But with family, that's a little harder. But how do you, if they keep doing it after you've done that, what do you do at that point?
Usually you can work through most problems with firm boundaries. When you set your firm boundaries, that is what counts. When you go into a relationship, any relationship, whether it is, girlfriend, boyfriend, man, woman, Girlfriends, you set your boundaries on how you want to be treated. And they have to be, if you have someone that oversteps your boundaries, then they're going to be firm boundaries with that person.
Okay.
And you kind of know that person, when sometimes you need to listen because they'll tell you everything about them if you listen. And sometimes you need to just listen to them and you'll be able to tell if this one is going to overstep my boundaries or not.
That's so true. Brian said, I like the idea of correcting the issue then and there.
Yes.
Hello, Phyllis. Hello, Black Love United. Thank you for joining us. Well, that's true. But I'm saying, like with family, how do you set boundaries like that if they, like you said, they continue to do it? I mean, I've heard some people just say they just don't go around their family anymore. To me,
I wouldn't oust them, but I would sit down with them and say, you know what, we need to talk. The reason why I have not been over is because every time I come over, this happens and that happens, and you kind of overstep my boundaries. You have to realize that you are number one. You are important. You treat a person the way you want to be treated. And that is so important. So important. You got to stand up for you, because if you don't, who else is going to stand up for you?
Right. Hey, Sarah. Hi, Cedric. All the way from Richmond Heights. Yeah. But Black Love United said, good stuff, but family is tricky.
It is.
And that's true. It's kind of like touch and go. What if I say this, and a part of maturity is being able to take that kind of stuff,
Yes.
with family, because some of them get mad and they ain't gonna talk to you for a week. They ain't gonna call you. They ain't gonna check on you, because they're mad.
Mm-hmm.
But talking about it right then and there is true. That's something you need to discuss. Making sure you set your boundaries and make sure they understand that that was disrespectful.
Yes.
To say this is what I like going forward.
Mm-hmm.
And with all that said, it's not too much you can do beyond that. And like you said, you don't want to oust them, but you also don't want to let them keep doing it and making you feel bad,
Mm-hmm. It's like I said, it is a hard situation, but again, you tell them how you want to be treated and you treat them with you want to have a healthy relationship. This is the way we can have a healthy relationship. These are my boundaries. What are your boundaries from me? A relationship is give and take. It is give and take. So you also want to say, how can I help you, or how can you help me have a better relationship? We have an unhealthy relationship. So let's make our relationship healthy. This talking, we're not talking each other over the week and this and that. We can't do that. Because as I said before, you're letting the sun go down on your anger.
Absolutely. Cedric Thomas said, it's if people feel it's done in love, it's better received.
That has a fine line, I think.
That is, because sometimes, they kind of, it's done in love, but it's the presentation sometimes, because they're still not over it. And so it comes, they love you, but it comes out wrong, or it comes out, it's not being able to receive because of the way it came out, I guess you could say. So, but that's just kind of how I feel with I agree with you on most of it. Go ahead.
I want to say something else. Each person needs to feel that they can say what needs to be said and that they're heard. I hear this constantly, well, you don't hear me. Okay, let that person talk and let them, speak their truth so they're heard, and then go from there and make the boundaries. Because a lot of times they feel they're not heard. So listening is also a skill in that communication and making those boundaries.
That's true. That's like somebody you telling me, I'm telling you, okay, Lynn, you know what? When you said such and such and such, that hurt my feelings. And then you come back and say, well, if I hurt your feelings, I'm sorry. No, I told you you hurt my feelings. So we have to, that means they weren't really listening.
Exactly.
I say that you were right in how I perceived it, but this is how I felt when you said, X, Y, Z. So that's why it's important to make sure, and sometimes repeating what they said back, because that further clarifies that they received the right message that you were trying to communicate.
It does. Paraphrasing and reframing those sentences. And that is so important in relationships. Okay, what I hear you saying is this. What
Mhm.
I need from you is that. I feel this way. And it's so important, those three things. I feel when you do this and what I need. Boom.
Yes.
The building blocks.
Tamara,
Yes,
how you doing, Tamara? She says some people don't want to take accountability for crossing boundaries. That's true.
they do.
They
They
want
be
to make excuses.
defensive.
Yeah, or they'll come to, well, you did such and such, such.
Mm-hmm.
That's how I brought this to your attention because I want to address this. We can address that at a later time. Do you feel that that's the better way to handle it, or do you feel like whatever issues you just all discuss it all at once? How do you feel with that?
Okay, so I feel that if there's an issue, we're going to discuss it right now.
Mhm.
Okay. If the issue gets heated, you're going to take 15 minutes off of it. And when you come back to it, you're going not going to start at the same point where you became combative. You're going to start at a different point in the conversation. That way that tempers and everything will be minimized, and you can start at a different segment of of what happened. But I feel once you decide that we have come to a win-win for both, because you're not going to solve everything. There are going to be some things that you two can't solve, but you can walk away and say, I respect your view and I respect your view. Once that's done, you are not to reopen that same conversation like next week. Well, you remember last week you did this? No, we've settled that.
That's
So
good.
it's not to be brought up again.
Well, that's one of the things you and I recently, I ain't gonna say recently because it's been what since 2017, 2000, yeah,
Girl.
2017.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
But when I first met you, I was like, okay, who is this girl? Because we were working
Mhm,
for the same person,
mhm, mhm,
government agency, and we kind of hit it off for whatever reason at
mhm,
whatever point. But with new friendships, especially at our age, people tend to not let people in. But
mhm.
you were so welcoming, and me coming from the background I come from with friendships, girl, I was like, girl, don't be trying to talk to me. I ain't, I ain't be your friend. You know what I'm
You gave me that look, okay?
saying? Yep, that was a nonverbal. But you allowed me to be me in the midst of what I was going through and allow me to decide that if I wanted to be your friend. You were being my friend, and you had to allow me to do that. And then you allowed me, if something bothered me, to open up, and you kept going. I'm used to friends, like I mentioned earlier, saying, wow, oh, you going to say that to me and get mad and don't talk. But you just, whatever we say, okay, we address it, and then we move on like nothing happened. And I love that. That was refreshing to have a new friendship at this age, and even and better yet, with that new friendship allowing me to grow and be mature about a situation without getting mad. You know what?
Mhm,
Without anybody getting mad, put it that way.
mhm,
I was like, man, that's a breath of fresh air. And so then we started traveling, and it was just like, wow, I can have fun, I can be myself, and not have to worry about anything. And if I do, I can address it, and we keep it ain't gonna spoil the mood. We keep it
mhm,
moving. That's growth. That's maturity. And I
mhm,
thank you for that. And so I wish more people would get this because, it's like ain't no one person got all the answers.
mhm,
So if something, this person has got a different personality, and they might be used to doing certain things a certain way, but coming from your background, man, girl, you don't even understand. You done helped me so much. And I thank you again. I can't say that enough.
But that works two ways, Tanja. That works two ways from the midnight choir rehearsal that we had, doing our choir and stuff. You
That was
allowed me
you
to be
that
me.
choir rehearsal. No, we're gonna have a
Yeah,
choir.
you allowed me to be me because just like Shawnee said, wherever she shows up, you gonna get Shawnee. Wherever Lynn shows up, you gonna get Lynn. So I allowed you to be you. You allowed me to be me. And I feel that at certain times, we need to reevaluate who's sitting around our campfire. Is that still somebody that is going to push me to go this way? Is that still somebody that's got my, friends change. And as you start to grow,
Mhm.
a lot of people don't want you to grow. They want you to
Right,
stay right
right.
back there with them. So, sometimes you got to shed some things, just like animals shed hair in the summer and then they get that winter coat. We got to do the same thing with some of the friends because
Yeah.
some of them are no longer friends. They can look at you, envyism, jealousy. She thinks she all this now because she got this and she got, no, it's just that God has a handle on you and you're growing and they don't want you to grow because they choose to stay where they are.
Right. Brian says healthy friendships are so important and refreshing to the soul. And
Ooh,
it is.
yes,
It
yes,
is.
yes.
I can't say that enough because what I thought was healthy, here's the thing. Basically, what you're communicating to a person, even when you're allowing a negative behavior,
Mm-hmm.
you wait a minute. Healthy relationships are playing hide and seek. That's what Black Love United says. But when you have negative behavior in a relationship and you continue to allow that because you've been in that relationship for so long, what you're communicating is that that's okay. That's what you will accept. That's what you've accepted. That's what you continue to accept. But the moment you decide, I want to grow, I don't want to be the same way, then like you said, you think you all that, you whatever and stuff. And they don't necessarily say that all the time, but what they're saying is, oh, there that nonverbal communication or that indirect
Mm-hmm.
uh, language that they use to let you know that they don't appreciate you changing. How dare you say this, or how dare you disagree? Can I talk? How dare you disagree with me? Friendship is not about if I let you do something that I feel like is wrong, is going to hurt you. I don't love you. And I'm not going to agree with you just because you're my friend. We
Mm-hmm.
have to have a discussion. Now, you ultimately might not agree with me still, but I'm going to interject my opinion or my thoughts to let you know, I don't think that's right. I think you said that, the wrong way to that person or whatever, if I'm around a situation.
Mm-hmm.
And then you'll say, either, thank you so much for telling me that. I didn't realize I said that. And that's what I love about growing and maturing in
Yeah.
relationships because it sets the foundation. I want to be married again, and it sets the foundation to communicate appropriately. And it's, I tell you, girl, you don't even know what you've done, but you do.
No, you don't know what you've done. We did the same thing. Look at us in each other's closets and look, we have the same clothes. We have a lot in common. And that's when you say, wow, we're cut from the same mold, and it's just interesting. And that's how friendships formulate. I've asked your opinion on several things, and I'm like, me, keep it real. I fake if not,
You say
and
that
I
all the time.
keep it real. I fake if not, and I don't want you to fake with me. Keep it real. Tanja, did I do this? Did I, and I think that's so important. As you get in a relationship with a person as well, you tell them your boundaries and what type of person you are up front. And I think that's important, man or woman.
Yes, let me read some of these comments.
Mm-hmm.
Tamara says, so true. True friends changes, and I have experienced that recently. I had to let that friend go. And then Black Love United says, healthy friendships are hard to find, explaining previous comment. And then Brian says, advice for talking to friends about boundaries. So he's asking for advice on how to talk to friends about boundaries.
Well, you're letting them know who you are. You are number one. Remember that you are number one. You have to decide on your boundaries and listen in the beginning to your friends, how they're talking and different things. That will let you know what boundaries you have to set with them. You might have a friend who always takes advantage of you. You're going to set the boundary. This is the last time I'm going to do this. Some people will take advantage when you're a giver, when you're a giving person.
Right.
So you set the boundaries on how you want to be treated and make sure you always treat that person the same way you want to be treated. Make sure that you are not afraid to put you as number one instead of putting that other person before you. And that's important.
Right, right. That's so true. That's so true. I mean, and especially people that are givers.
Mm-hmm.
There are times that you have a friend that might be going through something, and I can continue to give and give and give because I'm helping them through the process. That I don't mind. But if I know I see you being a giver to other people, but you decide that you don't want to do it to me because you don't feel like you've taken my kindness for my weakness and taken me for granted.
Exactly.
That's what you're communicating to me. Then that's when I back out and I say, okay, I can't do this. And that's when those boundaries are like, I don't even have to say anything. I just stop doing. You know, and so that's to me one of the ways that you can kind of let them know without even having a conversation. Because if a person mistreats me, or like you said, disrespects me, then it's ways you can back out of without, because that person don't really care about you. Now you can have a conversation
Exactly.
if you feel like they need to still be in your life, but when the conversation happens and they still start making excuses, then yeah, it's time to just bye, Felicia.
Exactly. Because you want to be able to be free around your friend. You think about it. We travel together, so I want to be me. You know how to take me. You know you're gonna laugh. You know I'm gonna do something crazy. I mean, that's being
Yes.
real and having fun. And that's what it's all about. You don't want to be around anybody that you can't be yourself. Well, can
Right.
I do this? Can I say no? I'm gonna be who I am. And that's important to pick very, very carefully who's in your inner circle, who you share things with, who you can trust, because a real friend you should be able to laugh with, you should be able to cry with, you should be able to do this with, do that with, Bible study. Those are the things, pray with. Those are the things that you are looking for in a pure friendship. I'm not jealous of you. I'm happy for you. Let me know what I can do to help you get to that ultimate goal. And remember one thing,
Yeah.
a friendship, when God is moving you, you're moving. I look at a pinnacle. And if you look at a sphere, there's only room at the top for one person. So a lot of them there now can't go with you to the top. You got to pick and choose at every level who's
Man.
going to push you up there.
Amen. And you do need those friends that's going to encourage you and push you and be behind
Exactly.
you, not compete. Not. I've noticed some friendships, they start out great and they're still great. I don't ever say it that the friends I had, because the friends I had were um, good people in general.
Mm-hmm.
But when you notice things start to slack and the language starts to change as far as how they communicate to you,
Mm.
then you know that person, something about them is got something against me. And I don't realize what I've done. They ain't said nothing to me. They just doing it. And it's just kind of like one of those things that, okay, I'm not going to discontinue being their friend. I'm going to be cordial. I'm going to be kind. I'm going to be the same person around them, but I'm not making an effort to go above and beyond like I used to. Let's
Mm-hmm.
some of these comments. Brooke says, amen. Treat them the same way you want to be treated. That's true. And Phyllis says, I think the important thing is listening, because people will tell
Yes.
you who they are if you listen.
Mm-hmm.
That's true, because a lot of times, even when you're communicating,
Mm-hmm.
uh, people are not listening to get understanding. They're listening to answer.
Mm-hmm.
They want to be able to give you some feedback on what you're saying, to kind of basically argue with you. I ain't going to be arguing with you too long.
Mm-mm. Yeah.
We can agree to disagree. There's some things that we differ on, but we don't get mad at each other because this is what you feel and I feel. We just keep it moving. You understand where I'm coming from. I understand where you're coming from, and we keep it moving. That's
Mm-hmm.
that's the beauty behind true friendships and
Mm-hmm.
relationships, where you can communicate effectively and not have to worry about walking around on eggshells like people used to walk around me.
Well, that's me too, because I'm on 100 all the time. Okay. And like she got so much energy. I mean, so you just, Phyllis said it right. You listen, a person will tell you everything you need to know. And then also, God gives you discernment.
Oh God.
So that discerning spirit, when that beep, beep, beep goes off, you better check your beeper. Okay. That
Mhm.
411 is right there telling you
Yeah.
what is going on. So that's important.
That is important, honey. Discernment. I since I've been here, um, uh, I pray more and more. God, give me. I tell them, turn my discernment, the spirit of discernment, on high, because I
Mhm.
want to know who I'm meeting,
That's right.
You know, because people can put on the hits, boy. They can present, you know, what's that saying? You get that representative. You get the representative, and when that new person come out, it's too late because you done got too involved in the relationship. I mean, it's never too late, but you still kind of like, how did I miss that? That's what's happened to me over the years with friendship. I've had some great friendships, but I realized as I got older, I'm that person that go along and get along. So I don't say things when things bother me because it ain't no big deal. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But then I realized it did affect me. It was a big deal. And had I addressed it then, I don't think those would have been issues, or I think the relationship would have been severed a little bit sooner. So I don't know, it's just how I feel.
I look at it also, Tanja, as, you know, people have an assignment in our life. Sometimes where God wants it to be a tent, we build a foundation. That's not what God wants. They have a deposit and keep it moving, but we keep them there. So look, as you go back, you know, was that person meant to be in my life, or was their assignment up and I chose to keep them there?
Well, they do have an assignment, and I thank God. And I just heard Sarah Jakes Roberts say that I think it was, well, recently I heard her say you could always downplay relationships that you got to cut off and be negative. She said, or you can say, I thank you that person was in my life at a time when I needed them for X, Z.
Yes.
The way you're not trying to make them be a bad person, but what you're doing is thanking God for that time that you had, because that causes you to grow. That causes you to see things differently. And longevity is never a reason to stay in a relationship just because you've known them for so long. It's just a reason to understand and appreciate that person had a purpose. Like you said, they were a tent versus a foundation that God is building to get you to that point. You know, that's good. Let me read another comment. Brooke said, that's good. Don't build a foundation where God intended to be a tent. Amen. Brian talking about, man, y'all all up in my kitchen. Brooke said, I don't throw folks away as a tent when God is trying to make them a foundation. Okay. So, and that's true. This has just been some good stuff. Now, y'all know this is new to me, so I'm trying to put out what I can put out, but also trying to read with my big font. Lynn already been picking at me about my letters being so big, but it is what it is. Is it? I think we kind of addressed this, but I said, is it always good to speak the truth in relationships? And what I'm saying by this is, if something, I guess what I'm trying to say is that you have to evaluate whether it's necessary to say. If it's something minute and you know that you ain't gonna be around that person, why are you gonna even address it? They're not in your inner circle. They're not somebody that's gonna be around you all the time. You just let it go. But if it's something like they drink their glass with their left hand and you drink it with the right, that's stupid. Don't let them. As long as they want to drink it, they drink it. You know. So even though it's the truth, you shouldn't drink. You drinking with your left hand. Well, that's the truth, but it ain't necessary to say. And I know that sounds simple, but that's all I'm trying to say is it's not always necessary to speak the truth. Is it or is it not? If that
it depends on the person and the situation. You know, it all depends. I mean, you know, if it's going to bother you and then you look back and say, you know, I should have said something about it because it bothers me, you know, then you bring it up later. And sometimes it's a culmination of other things that can really come to a nasty, combative situation. So, you know, it all depends. I know in Gottman marriage therapy, I've learned that you speak it right then and there. When the infraction occurs, you want to make sure that it's handled right then and there. Right. You know, you want to talk it out. You know, I felt this way when you did that and what I need. Those three things: I feel, I need, and when you did this, I feel, when you did this, and I need. You're telling a person right then and there. I felt hurt when you made that comment. I need you to be more respectful. Boom.
Yeah, it's like real time. A cop pull you over, you speeding, you're going to get that ticket in real time.
I'm going to try to talk my way up out of it.
I know some people that can talk their way out of a ticket every time. But yeah, I'm just saying, just so that because sometimes when we go through stuff and in real time, it could hurt somebody else. So if we stop and let them know, because some people don't even recognize they're doing things. Like for me, if I'm the common denominator and everybody's telling me the same thing, you think there's some truth to that? Absolutely. Mm-hmm. So I need to be able to be mature enough to receive that communication. That's right. Say, and sometimes, even if it's coming from somebody that I don't necessarily care for, I'm not around, I still take and evaluate what they're saying, because just because it's the person that's let everybody know they don't care for me, if they're telling me something and I'm doing it, I got to do some soul searching to see, is there something I need to change? Just because it came from the source that I wouldn't necessarily see, it's like a blessing. Some people walk up to you and put some money in your hand. You don't know them like that. So you're going to dismiss the source and say, no, I don't know them, so I ain't going to take it. No, it's the same thing, whether it's good or bad. So to me, when you communicating, can I get my train of thought? I'm trying to read these messages at the same time. I'm sorry, y'all.
That's all right.
I just know that real time is the best way to do it. And I'm going to leave that at that while I read another note, because I'm kind of got lost there. It says, Tamara says, no, if God reveals someone to me, I don't discuss it with them. I forgive them and pray for them and move on. Is that healthy? Is that good?
If God it depends on the situation God's revealing to you. If that is someone who you're in a relationship with and God reveals it to you, then you need to address it as he reveals. But then you also have to listen to God. God, what do you want me to do about this? Do I leave it in your hands? Or, I'm going to pray for him, but do you want me to address it? Always listen to where God leads you and what he's telling you to do.
Right. Black Love United says everything your enemy says is not a lie. Mm-hmm. That's true. He told, the devil, he quoted scripture to Jesus, but that don't mean you got to act on it, Mm-hmm. So Phyllis says, I think the inner circle is small, so you need to work really hard on true friendships because they are special. Oh my God, that's so true. Mm-hmm. I can count on my right hand. Well, I don't know how it mirrors off to y'all, but count how many people I consider, and I say close friends, I consider them my inner circle. Mm-hmm. And here's my explanation. Jesus said that his disciples were his friends.
Yes.
Judas was one of those people. Mm-hmm. So I consider everybody my friend. How you handle them and who and what dynamics that friend makes in your life is up to you. I might go shopping with one. I might go to the movies with another. I might travel with another. There are certain things I do with certain people that I don't do with the other. Mm-hmm. My inner circle, those are those people that I know going to listen to me. They're going to encourage me. They're going to pray for me and got my back when I'm not around. Mm-hmm. And so when people say stuff, it's even I had an old supervisor that did not like me. And an inmate said some things to him that I did. And he said, had you said anything else, I would have said, okay, I'll investigate it. But because you said she cursed you out, she doesn't use profanity. Your life will speak for you. So when you're not around, your friends know how to take up your mouth. Seem like I don't believe that. That's not who she is, or that's not who he is. So that's just my take on the inner circle and who people are in your lives and how you got to handle them. Do you think men and women have different ways of communication as far as, the language that they speak? Or I guess I don't know if I made that right. When I say that, I've heard men and women communicate differently. Mm-hmm. Do you agree?
Yes, I do. Yes, I do. Men aren't as emotional as women are. Women are emotional creatures. Men are not. And sometimes, I don't want to go there with that. But yeah, I agree that they are different in the way they communicate as well.
Yeah. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Emotions will sometimes surface, and that is in the female. The male character all the time. you also want to make it a safe environment for men to feel vulnerable and safe in order for them to communicate. Because, a man growing up, man up, you ain't supposed to cry, you're not supposed to do this. So then in a relationship, if he doesn't feel safe and vulnerable, if he doesn't feel safe, he's not going to feel vulnerable. So he's going to hold his emotions.
And that's what I heard another man say. He said, a man, because I was asking, well, they were discussing, do men and women communicate the same? Mm-hmm. And he said, yes, we do. He said, but men are less likely to communicate to you if they don't trust you. Exactly. They got to know that they can trust you with that information. Because women, we are emotional, but we also talk too much. So if the man coming to you trying to tell you something, that ain't for you to go to tell everybody else. You understand what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So that's when he said that coming from a man, I was like, wow, that's why they hold back, because they don't feel like they could trust you.
They don't feel safe. You have to create that safe environment and let them know. But then again, you got to make sure that he also creates that safe environment for you as well. Because there are some women that, won't bring things up and out because they may not feel safe that he can handle certain things that she's going to say. So.
Okay.
Yeah. From my personal experience. Okay.
You gotta Oh, well, I think we've kind of covered everything. We covered everything and some. And I can't read too much on this stuff here because my mind is I can't do like you. You be touching on everything all over the place. What's that? I ain't gonna say it. I ain't gonna put
you wrong, Sandra. You're wrong.
I'm gonna let that one go. Phyllis says men absolutely need to feel safe and that you have their backs before they share. Yeah. That's true.
Yeah, they have to feel safe. They'll be vulnerable if they can feel safe and you're not going to judge them, because that's the whole thing. They're not supposed to cry. They're not supposed to do this. They're not supposed to do that. Well, what's a safe relationship in order for them to do it? You calling them your soul mate, So they're supposed to be able to open up and tell you those deep-seated things that they need to discuss with you. And you've got to make sure that you can do that. And then don't get on the phone and call that girlfriend and say, girl, you know what happened? No. Because then again, he's going to shut down.
Right.
So.
Black Love United says, right, men are cut and dry most of the times. Mm-hmm. And, so they do get down. Men not like us, child, I went to the store and I went to the right, and then I saw this car. It was cute, it was red car. And then before you even telling them what you bought at the store, you got to get every little detail. Like you said, men, they just gonna tell you, baby, I went to the store today and I bought such and such. That's it. Well, we got to get detail around that. Mm-hmm. But anything that you want to leave the people with, because I think we've kind of covered everything.
You said something important, and Jesus had his disciples around the table, and Judas was sitting there, and he didn't treat him any differently, but he knew who he was. So I feel that we need to reevaluate friendships sometimes. I call it the campfire. Who's sitting around your campfire? You need to reevaluate some of those friendships and really ask God to give you discernment. Who is this person? And I think once you have that, you'll better know how to either deal with them with a long handle spoon or, to let them go from that campfire, because that's very, very important. And I say the campfire because fire can burn you. So, I always say the campfire. But anyway.
That's true. And the what I gather from what you just said is people get to choose to be who they want to be. Mm-hmm. But you get to choose who you're going to continue to be. You don't let them affect you in a way where it changes who you are. That's so right. People going to be there themselves. They're going to do whatever they want to do. But my response is going to be the same. He knew, like you said, he knew Judas and what he was going to do, but he didn't treat him any differently. And I'm not going to do that either, because then that means you're trying to get me to change who I am. And that's not, I love me. I have learned to be me. And you doing something else most times is something you're going through, something you're dealing with. And that's why you react the way you do to me. Not so much that I've done anything wrong to you. And so I can't let that affect me. Now, if they do it directly to me, like you said, we'll address it at that
Mhm.
point. But most time people lash out at you is because of something that's going on in their lives. So I will have to continue to ask God for grace to be able to extend that so that I can be there for them and I can pray for them. If nothing else, I can pray for that person and ask God to help them through whatever they're going through, but also to continue to allow me to be Tanja.
Mhm.
That's to me, that's key in any relationship. You gotta be you. If somebody else come at you and screaming, and I know the Bible says, turn the other cheek and all that kind of
Mhm.
stuff, and they come screaming and hollering at you, that don't mean I gotta scream and holler back at you, because if you're treating your neighbor as yourself, that's something you wouldn't do. So you just kind of, if you bring the tone down, that causes them to have to listen if they want to listen, and they'll stop
Mhm.
yelling, and then they'll come down and to listen, and they won't be yelling most times. I ain't gonna say, you got exceptions to every rule. Some people just gonna scream because they think that the louder they scream, the more they point is made, and that's not true. That's not true. You just showing that you immature and all
Mhm.
this other stuff. I ain't gonna say, but anyway. Well, thank you so much for joining us. It
Thank
was a
you for having me. I'm
pleasure.
so proud of you and everything you're doing. Let God continue to lead you all the way. It's wonderful. So
Thank you.
sometimes you got to do it alone, girl, but you're doing a good job.
Well,
Yeah.
thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you for all your knowledge. Girl, God blessed you with your profession for a reason. You're
Oh,
great at what you do. I appreciate the fact that He brought you into my life to help me be a better person, so that I can continue to grow and know what to look for and how to continue setting those boundaries. But I also want to make a note that God says sometimes even people that you consider Christians,
mhm.
sometimes we're the only Christ they get to see. So because they act out of character or act out a way that you wouldn't typically act out, sometimes you got to be there for that reason. That don't mean you got to stay around them, but you got to be there to be that example and to be that guidance for them. Sometimes from a distance, you can still do it. And that way, God is still getting the glory and God is still using you. So to me, that's something that I've learned over these past few years. And that's so important to me to continue, like I said, being me and to continue to allow God to use me in a way that might be effective for that person. But it's always, even the unsafe, it's always God's, some plant the seed, some,
Mhm.
you know, give the can I say God, some plant the seed, some water it, and then God gives the increase. That's basically what I'm trying to say. So however God gets to use you, if you allow him, you could be that seed. You can water some things if God already dealing with them, but let God do the rest. And that means you don't have to be around him all the time to ensure this happens. God know what he's doing. He just uses you in ways that you don't even realize sometimes. But my takeaway from all of this is, and it's just my 2 cents for change, y'all. This don't mean it's right, but go back and evaluate your relationships. Everything doesn't need to be said. If you're not sure about what was said, please ask for clarification. Don't assume anything because you get the wrong messages. Um, be mature enough to discuss topics without getting upset with people you love. Because if they brought it up, that means they care enough about you and the relationship to make sure that they're clear on what the message was in the first place. And this is kind of one of those extra ones. But if you have a conflict or problem with someone, discuss it. I say discuss it in private, because the problem is not with them. The problem is with them and not everyone else. But what I've learned today is that if they do it in front of everybody, guess what? You need to discuss it depending on the situation. Um, and also, if you have an issue and you're trying to confront that person or discuss it with that person, that's a better word. The problem, don't, or if they come into you, don't bring up other issues, just one issue at a time. take that time to understand what the issue is with that person, discuss it so it doesn't happen again. And then when an issue happens that you thought you needed to discuss at the time, discuss it at that time. But let each issue be discussed at that time and that time only.
Mm-hmm.
Listen to understand so that you don't make that mistake again. If you value your friendship and you value relationships, communicate effectively and ask God what you can do to make the relationship better. Remember what she said earlier. Everybody's not meant to be that foundation. Some people are just meant. So with that being said, that was my 2 cents for change. Thank you again, Lynn, for coming on. I enjoyed you. You take care. And next time, be blessed, family.
Thank you.